Shalom, shalom. Mr. Brother Lamad, right out of WFI Indianapolis, right, coming to you guys with another video real quick, just to segue off of what we kind of already went into, last week a little bit. But I want to harp on the fact that Satan can be temperate as well. What I mean by that is that Satan can also move at slow speeds. You think that it's always a boom, bam, pow, or some type of quick action or a quick chaotic moment that Satan gets to get an advantage of us in. That's not the case. Satan wants to take advantage of you for the long run as well. So he could play the long game. He could be patient. He could be temperate. He could retain his composure. He could consistently sit there and wait for that perfect opportunity where he knows that he could get you to a place where there's no return, where he could have you against the wall essentially, where, you're stuck, and there's no way out, right? So let's go ahead and get a couple of precepts real quick. This is not going to be a long video at all. I want to say shalom to all the men out there, right, getting built up. You understand that are even watching this video, right, for the exhortation, right, the woman as well as the children, right. I want to say all praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, right, and we're just going to go ahead and touch on this lesson through the Spirit, right. So I want to kick it off with first and foremost, 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse number 1, right. And I try to scribe these lessons out just to make sure that I'm objective in all the points that I'm hitting on, right? This is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with an hot iron." You see, and that's how it starts. You fall to the seduction. You understand? The things that entice you, the things that look bright, the things that set off a spark in your heart carnally, right? Or in your mind, to where as though you think to yourself, I want that. I desire to have that. Contentment goes out the window. You understand? And you start to chase after what your flesh wants and desires. You're not weighing the spiritual balance of things. You understand? So you fall into that seduction. That's step one of how you play into the trap of Satan's long game, right? Because you're giving heed unto your flesh and you're giving a chance for Satan to prosper in your members. Again, just like we touched on last week, right? I want to go to James chapter 1, right, to link up with that precept. It's the book of James chapter 1, right? We're going to start at verse number 13. "Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Yahweh. For Yahweh cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man." So we can't get it twisted at any point in time and think that it's the Most High God tempting us and putting us in these difficult situations, so whereas though we feel like we can't get out of. We can't sit there and say it's the Most High God putting me in these chains and these shackles when I know for a fact it's this flesh and the thoughts that come with it. You got to cut those things down and rebuke them at the end of the day, and not let Satan get the preeminence over your mind and your spirit, essentially, which will cause you to fall into damnation, right? We're going to read on verse 14. It says, "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed." You see, and that's just going to segue off of the last point. That seduction, man. It starts with you being enticed, man, when you're drawn away by your own lust, right? It didn't say the Most High God's won over your life. It said your own lust, the things that you think about, that you seem fashionably fit over your life. Let's read on. Verse 15. "Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren." Right? That's what Paul was telling the men of the ancient world, man. How much more now when the times wax eviler and eviler as this world continues to wax old. We read about that in the book of Second Edges, how the times will get worse and worse and worse, man. So if they were saying these things then, how much more now with everything that's going on in society, man? You have to make sure that your mind is girded and that you're strengthened, you understand, in your members, not giving heed unto the things that are convenient, you understand, and that evidently cause you to fall. Let's go ahead and read on to the next precept. Because like I said, this is not going to be too long. I'm not going to be too long-winded. I just want to keep it short and sweet, and I want to get the point across to you guys. So this is something that you guys can meditate on through the Spirit, right? Let's get Revelations chapter 2 and verse number 20, because we want to get an example as well of how these things kind of can transpire, man. And that's what the scriptures are for. You read that in Romans 15 and 4, right? It says the scriptures, right, are written for our learning sakes, right? That when we read these things, we could look at the testimonies that were left in the testaments and understand, okay, I know not to do that, right? Or I know to not do that, right? And I know to do this more often. I know to steer away and try to go this direction instead of that direction. This is Revelation chapter 2 and verse number 20. It says, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. You see that, man? So there's many vessels that can be used, right? And that's not necessarily in the lineup. But I want to see if I can find this precept real quick. Right, but there's many vessels at the end of the day that can be used, you understand, for either wickedness sakes, right, or for good sakes. In this case, Jezebel was used as a vessel by Satan, you understand, to where as though what? Causing men to be seduced and enticed, right? Eventually falling to what? Fornication, in which we just sat there and read, when man gives himself over to sin, you understand, if he doesn't come out of that sin, if he don't repent, you understand, a death is evidently waiting for that man. Right, let's read this in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 15 and verse number 7. It says, for the potter, tempering soft earth, fashioneth every vessel with much labor for our service. Yea, of the same clay he maketh both the vessels that serve for clean uses, and likewise also all such as serve to the contrary. But what is the use of either sort? The potter himself is the judge. So you got to understand that there's vessels out here that are used for clean purposes. There's vessels out here that's used for unclean purposes. There's vessels out here that what are doing the dirty work, but you also got vessels out here that are doing the good work. You understand? You want to be a vessel that's used for what? Goodly works, that's able to receive, right, the reward of incorruptibility. You understand? In the kingdom of heaven, essentially, man. Right? Let's go ahead and wind down. We're gonna close out with this last precept in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse number 11. And it reads, we're gonna start at verse number Slovakia. Oh, come, right? Verse number 11, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And that's just to go straight to the point at the end of the day. Now, there is context above this, but you want to sit there and, again, go precept upon precept. Everything that we just went into ties into this precept right here and allows us to get the understanding that, look, we cannot be ignorant of Satan's devices at the end of the day. The fact that he could be temperate and patient, that he could use certain vessels just to get to you, you understand, right? Or that he could strike, right, at any point in time, any moment, man. Your car break down, money gets taken out your account, whatever the case may be, right? You lose your wallet, anything, man. You understand? These things can happen, but other things can happen to where it's the what? It's the longer game that's being played in retrospect, man. You have to be temperate, you understand, in your mind, right? And the things of which you put your time to, and the things in which you give action towards, man, right? That temperance is important, that self-restraint. Because if Satan can have self-restraint, well, you can have self-restraint too, man. You also have to make sure that what? You're surveying everything that's going on around you. I know I said that was the last precept, right? But it's a spirit, right? I'm gonna bring out this precept real quick, right? I'm gonna close out. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 4 and verse number 17. It says, I'm gonna jump straight to the point actually, right? Start at verse number 20. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings, let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Constantly keep your eye on the path. Be objective, be of intent, you understand, and be of purpose and sincerity at the end of the day. With that, it's been the brother Lamar out of WFI Indianapolis. I'm going to say, Kwame Shalom. Shalom.